The International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Chauffeurs, Stablemen, and Helpers was the name of the union. Horses in the greater part of the trucking there were becoming about as rare as a one-armed cornetist with the itch. Stablemen were even somewhat passé. But yet, this was the name. And it was not just simply a matter of a name that was appropriate at a far earlier time hanging on because nobody had gotten around to changing it. The name also typified the mentality of the officialdom of the local unions as well as the whole top hierarchy, including Tobin himself. It wasn't bad enough just to narrow the organizational structure down to truck drivers. But they had a separate local union set up for drivers that picked up the garbage. Another one for drivers that hauled freight. Another one for drivers that delivered newspapers. Another one for drivers that went out with a little cart. They used to call him the Jewel Tea Man. Went out and sold coffee, tea, spices, bread, and the Farmer's Almanac. Whatever the particular commodity was the back end of the truck, their tendency was to set up a specific craft local for that sphere. And the result was that it kept the workers broken up into little groups so that there could never be any collection of workers within a given local that could make any serious trouble for the business agent and the rest of the bureaucrats that dominated the union.
These pictures of the Minneapolis truck drivers' strike, typical of disorders flaring up in various cities, show a spirit of lawlessness which has no place in America. 5,000 are in the milling mob, trying to prevent trucks from delivering needed food to the city. A strong guard of police and distribution of nightsticks to citizen deputies fails to check the crowd, which closes in an ugly move. Outnumbering the police 10 to 1, they attack in gangs, the actual beginning of hand-to-hand fighting, in which one deputy was beaten to death and scores were injured.
Is going on, a telegram arrives at the union headquarters, signed by Daniel J. Tobin, ordering us to arbitrate our differences with the bosses. We were busy down in the market. There was a screwball congressman, my name was Shoemaker, wandering around trying to get some publicity for himself, and he wanders into the strike headquarters, and here he sees laying on the table, there's hardly anybody around, we're all down the market. He sees laying on the table here a telegram from Tobin addressed to Bill Brown, the president of the union, ordering to arbitrate. Well, Shoemaker was just that kind of a screwball. He took it upon himself to answer. He answered in the right spirit, but here's what he wired back to Tobin, and he signed Bill Brown's name to it. Dear sir, keep your scabby nose and scaly face out. This is a fight for human rights, your rat job not involved. Well, as you can understand, it didn't exactly improve our relations with Tobin. even though it did echo the reality of the moment. Local 574 was growing steadily in numbers, in influence, and in power. And Local 500, our rival, created, full, born out of the head of Daniel J. Tobin, remained an impotent paper set. So Tobin decided to give us the Chicago treatment. I mean no offense to you citizens of Chicago, but if you know a little of the background of labor history around here, you'll know what I mean by the Chicago treatment. If you don't, you'll know when I get done describing to you how they tried to apply it up there. He sent in a gang of case-hardened bureaucrats out of the Teamsters movement here in Chicago and some outright hoodlums. They were made the officials of Local 500. Their method of operation was to prowl the streets, the team tracks, the loading docks with guns and blackjacks and the benevolent protection of the police. Go around and threaten and cajole the bosses and look for sweetheart contracts. Play footsie and get support from every two-bit politician around town. And in general, try to cut the throat to the rank and file of 574 from ear to ear. In the fall of 1937, Corcoran was murdered, shot in the head as he just put his car in his garage at home and was walking from the garage to the house, and he was shot in the head. The murder was never solved. The stalling on the negotiations was immediately followed by an influx of Tobin goons. This time it wasn't just a relatively small force of the kind that came in the spring of 1936, made up of a few case-hardened bureaucrats and some hoodlums here from Chicago. Tobin put the loyalty test all up and down the International, and he put it to everybody on the international payroll, and he put it to everybody in the leadership of a local union that had aspirations of getting on the international payroll. And he put it in the framework of patriotism, loyalty, red baiting, and he got results. The town was flooded with goon squads coming from various Teamster setups around the country acting for Tobin. And many who came were from over-the-road locals in the 11-state area. Now it's important to note that those who came from the over-the-road locals were not, in general, from among the best of the militants that had carried the ball in the battle I described to you last night, whereby the over-the-road structure was consolidated and the bosses brought to book. Our friends, the militants in the over-the-road locals, were pocketed and under heavy pressures in their situation, just like we were at this juncture in Local 544. And the result was that the fight very quickly boiled down to a battle between Local 544 on the one side, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, the bosses, and the bosses' government on the other. And when I say the bosses' government, as you will see, I mean the works.